Hey there, Internet. Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is Vega Bomber Land, and you are talking to the Vega Bomber himself. And when I get in front of a camera, that means I'm about to talk movies with you. So the movie I've seen here recently is a movie called Cry Macho. It's a PG-13 movie. It's about 1 hour and 45 minutes. It's directed, produced, and acted in by Clint Eastwood. Yes, this is a Clint Eastwood film. The same Clint Eastwood that's now 91 years old. And I don't know, what is this, about the 40th film that he's directed? So he's going strong, and that I'm excited about. I like that part about it. Now, this film, Cry Macho, is a derivative of a book of the same name. And apparently they've had access to this script now for almost like 30-something years, but for some reason now is the perfect time to do this. So what is Cry Macho about? Cry Macho is about this former rodeo star who won like 5 championships just being this awesome cowboy who could stay on a horse and not get bucked off. But then, of course, he has one bad accident that ruins his back. And so we meet him now in the beginning of this movie as somebody who's a shell of what he used to be. And so he works for a guy named Dwight, played by Dwight Holcomb, the country singer. And he's basically telling him, hey, listen, there's a thing I want you to do. I'm going to fire you because you've been late and I think you're no good and you're not who you used to be anymore. But then a year later, he says, hey, because you owe me, I looked out for you when you had a broken back. I want you to go into Mexico, into some dangerous territory, to go bring back my 13-year-old son because I want my son, and my ex-wife isn't fit to be a mom. She's not taking care of him. So will you go get him? I want to bring him back here. So 91-year-old Clint Eastwood, and this film, by the way, is set in the late 70s, early 80s, so it's 79, 80. You're going to send a 91-year-old into Mexico just because he was a great horse, and he was a horse whisperer. He was somebody who could ride a bucking bronco. You just want to send him in to get your son? Like, that's really a plan? Okay. So again, as you can see with this film is asking a lot. But let me get into the good, then I'll get into the bad, and then tell you my overall opinion of this film. So I'd say the good. Well, some of the humor, some of the one-liners are still there that you love from Clint Eastwood films. Well, he does have them here, and even at 91 years old, he can still deliver some pretty funny, sarcastic stuff. There's several times where it's in this film, and several times it lands. A couple of times you kind of go, okay, you played that too far, but it is pretty funny in certain scenes, and I like that little bit of humor in this film. Also, I'd say the imagery here is top-notch. I love that the fact that they're showing you the open range. Sometimes Mike Milo, who's played by Clint Eastwood, is sleeping outside, and the way they forefront him and silhouette him and then show you the sky and everything behind him, and then you just see his silhouette and just the hair and everything else. It was just pretty. That was just sharp. I mean, that was a good eye for this. I didn't expect it. And a couple other framing shots that they did as well. I actually like the idea that this is not unlike Gran Torino. This is another one of those older guy mentors a young boy type thing. And so some of the messaging that comes out of what it means to be macho and how that's kind of played out, I think there's some good messaging in here. So I was pretty happy with that. And also, I would say there's a lot of animal actors, if you will, in this. But in this case, there's this rooster who is called Macho by the boy. And Macho is awesome. He has the best fight scene in the movie because, Clint Eastwood's too old to fight. So there he was. This rooster was getting down on some of these goons. And so I thought that was pretty good. And I would say that from that standpoint, the movie was fine. It was fine. Not great, but fine. Now let me switch and tell you a little bit about the bad stuff. How much time do you have? So initially, when we first see this film, we get a lot of heavy exposition. This is the situation. Here's Dwight Yoakam. He's got a problem with Clint Eastwood. And now we get all this stuff about telling us what happened rather than really showing us. And so it was very exposition heavy. And I was like, okay, but I was willing to give it a chance, right? Because it's Clint Eastwood. I would say there's some poor casting choices here because mainly Clint Eastwood should have directed this film, but he shouldn't have acted in it. It could have been a much more action-packed film with some really great fight scenes and stuff if he wasn't 91 years old. And that's kind of what you want to see in a tough cowboy movie, which is what this is. So I don't like the idea that Clint Eastwood was cast in this role. I think it could have been a lot better if the person was maybe somebody who's maybe around 60, 55, 60 years old, if you want to have the older, wiser man talking to the young 13-year-old boy. And to that, I would say that there was some pretty spotty acting. So the kid playing opposite of Clint Eastwood, the kid named Eduardo Minette, I think it was beyond him. He couldn't play the nuance well enough of broken street kid, father hole, the wound that he has from not having a father figure in his life, and then accepting this cowboy and then dealing with this mom. I mean, there was just too many nuanced things where as he did them, it was just like, wow, you can tell he's acting. This did not make me think I was watching a real fully developed character. So I just think this was above his head. Not any fault to him. Maybe it was mostly the script, but I just didn't buy him as the street kid who was, well, anyway, I think the script didn't help him very well. And I would say the script is the other thing. It's like, okay, so you're going to send a 91-year-old man down there to go get this kid back who's supposed to be this tough street kid. And then you get down there and pretty much everything that happens so easily. His mom says, oh, you can find him. He's a piece of trash. He just out there cockfighting. That's all he does with his rooster. So the very first place that Clint Eastwood happens to step into, or Mike, I should call him, the very first place he walks into, guess what? Guess who's there? And even though he's never seen this kid other than a picture, and at the picture, he's 7 years old. Now he's 13, which is different. He just finds him just pretty quickly, pretty easily. And for some strange reason, the mom gets sweet on, Clint Eastwood or Mike, just like another lady who owns a little inn does the same thing later. So it's kind of like, this is not believable that these women are fiending for a 91-year-old, especially when he hadn't really done much but just kind of show up a little bit and mumble. So you have mumble rap that's big. In this movie, you get a lot of mumble lines by Clint Eastwood because he's famous for his one takes. And, well, he doesn't stop this and do several takes because he's a one-take guy, and you can see it. So, yeah, I didn't like the storyline. The plot holes are definitely there. You can pull them apart pretty easy, but I'll save that for a spoiler review or something else. And then the story's just kind of meandering because it's kind of like, so is this about a dad really missing his son, or is this about a former cowboy coming back to glory? Well, it has elements of these things to give you the idea, but I don't think it was executed very well. And the story does kind of meander. And quite frankly, I wanted to check my watch. In fact, I did check my watch. I didn't resist the urge to check my watch. And when that happens, movie slow, movie paced badly. And then I would say that's the last piece, is the pacing of this film. At some point, it seemed like it's supposed to be urgent for him to go get that kid and get back over the border line, back into Texas, so that everything could be great. But no, he's able to take a sojourn. They're able to take a little sideway deal and go spend some time in certain towns to show off his ability to be kind of like Dr. Doolittle, if you will. This guy is such a horse whisperer that he can whisper to all the land cattle type animals that would be in ranches now all of a sudden. So again, not supported, but it's there, and we're supposed to be able to just flow with it. And at some point you're going, well, ain't you supposed to be getting this boy back? Aren't the longer that you're out there? And then I say my final one, which really upsets me, is I like good villains in movies, and the villain or the goons that the mom sends out to go get her son back when she decides to go back on her deal with Mike Milo. Really? Like, there's just one guy. That's all you can do is send one guy out to go get him. And that guy just kind of gets upset, gets foiled by them, and just kind of hits the sand when they get the jump on him and they end up leaving. I was like, really? That was your best threat? I mean, there was nothing intimidating about that at all. And then I'd finally say the final thing I just didn't care for. I was already tuned out. It's just the ending was just pretty predictable. The things he goes back to, goes and wraps everything up in a nice little bow and says, hey, look, he's going to go and do the thing that you already know he's going to go do. And everybody's going to live happily ever after. And the boy gets to go be with his dad. But we don't have anything else really substantial to go by. So that's Cry Macho, which is a film that would make you cry. It makes you cry because you just don't want to see Clint Eastwood go out like this. Clint, baby, you're better than this. It's time. It's time to, if you want to continue to shoot films at 91, all power to you. But please let somebody else do the heavy lifting, especially in a movie where you got to ride horses and maybe get into a fracas or a fist fight, because it's not believable anymore, bruh. So anyway, that's my thoughts on this film. I would say all in all, I just say this film is completely disappointing, knowing the kind of quality that Clint Eastwood could put out there. And so from that perspective, is it the worst film in the world? No. Is it great? Not even close. Is it good? Not even close. Is it mediocre? Barely mediocre. Anyway, that's your boy Vega Bomber, and I'm out.